Hello and welcome back to the Scottish Games Network podcast. Well, sort of podcast. It's a wee bonus episode just because we love you that much. As always, I'm your host Ryan and I'm joined by Brian.
Morning, folks.
But we have a very special guest today that overshadows all of us, and that is Ali Lowe. Can you go and introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Ali Lowe. I run LowTek Games. I'm really dyslexic and I make games for dyslexic people.
That's fantastic. And Ali's joining us not only because he's one of the hottest young indie studios in Dundee and the creator of games including Flea and Tapeworm Disco Puzzle, and runs several successful Kickstarter campaigns, but also because he's a speaker at Playway. And we've been talking to a lot of the people who are taking part in the festival, really to find out a bit more about who they are, what they do, and what it is they're actually going to be talking about. So, Ali, LowTek Games, that's a reasonably new venture for you. Why don't you take us back to the beginning? How did you get into games?
I played games a lot when I was a kid. Had an Amiga and a NES growing up.
Good choices.
Yeah. And then a shed full of stuff. They got stolen one day, which was a bit annoying, but I had to build up that collection again. Then I got a game-making tool out of the bargain bin in Toys R Us called the Games Factory back, I don't know, when I was 10, and started making games then. So
Yeah. I vaguely remember it.
That was really good. It was so good. But also probably the reason that I can't code very well, so because it was all visual script and stuff.
Hey, listen, there is no shame in not being a coder.
I know enough to get by, but not enough to be good.
For uni, we had a web design module last semester, and we had to learn HTML and CSS, and it blew my mind. So I don't blame you.
That's the easy stuff. It's when you get into JavaScript here.
Oh, gee, I mean, just way to put me down there.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, despite having graduated in software development way back in the 80s, I haven't touched programming since, and I made the stupid mistake of signing up for a data visualization course at the end of last year, and so I'm currently learning the R programming language. And it turns out I still suck at programming.
Yeah.
So you have my sympathy and you have our support and understanding, Molly. We're here for you. Sorry, you were making games, you picked up the tool. How did you break into the industry?
Went to Abertay University, then just before my graduate show, started applying for jobs, and then just got in straight to Ninja Kiwi at that point.
Oh, nice. And so what was your role at the Ninja Kiwi?
I was hired as a 3D artist, but then did 2D for like a year and a half. But then I did evolve into more 3D stuff later, which was quite good.
Cool. It's like, and having seen your 2D work with the games Flea and Tapeworm Disco Puzzle. I keep wanting to say Tapeworm Disco Party.
Puzzle. That may be a new game. That's the Mario Party-esque game, yeah.
That's the end game.
Yeah, I've talked of that, yeah.
And so Ninja Kiwi really kind of gave you your start. And were you still making your own games at the same time?
Yeah, I was still doing like loads of game jams and loads of other stuff, but I'd always I've had the LowTek name since I was in like high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't know how to really launch it or what games to actually make or whatever. I tried releasing some stuff on the Play Store when I was at uni, but nothing really got any traction. So,
well, this is and I think it's a shock for pretty much every developer and designer out there. They'll pour their heart and soul, their passion into something and put it out and find out that not even their mum's going to download it.
Mm-hmm.
It can be dispiriting, but a valuable lesson nonetheless. So what finally pushed you? What finally gave you the inspiration to take the plunge and start your own studio?
Well, I'd wanted to for a while, as I said. I was getting a bit bored at Kiwi. It was the same old. And then I made a prototype for the Flea game, and I always wanted to kickstart it as well. And then I waited maybe a year, and finally pushed it together to get the Kickstarter demo together, the video together, put it out, and then they didn't really know how to market anything or any of that, but it still managed to make its target in like 3 days, which is pretty good.
That was dead impressive, and we had a chat,
Yeah, no, we had a good chat. It was good.
And I think that's one of the things is it was so defiantly retro and cute, and completely unlike anything else that I had seen, at the time. And so, were you doing a lot of work? Had you managed to pick up a lot of contacts through the game jams, or were you on some of the old retro gaming communities and boards, or how did...
They're kind of like two communities. Yeah, the game jam ones are just the local Scotland, whatever. I went over to New Zealand as well with Ninja Kiwi and met some of the indie developers over there, and that may have been another thing, because there was a guy doing homebrew development for the Amiga CD32, and we got chatting and stuff. We still talk, and it's pretty cool. He's making an engine called Scorpio Engine that publishes to like so many old retro platforms. It's really cool. But yeah, then through the tool that I used to make the NES game, NES Maker, the community there is like really, really enthusiastic, and everybody helps each other and stuff. So I think that kind of built up my name enough, like, to get the Kickstarter over the line.
Yeah, and our hats are off to you, because it's not an easy thing. And for every Kickstarter out there that succeeds, there are 10 that never make the cut.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't a retro game, it wouldn't have got funded.
Well, that's the thing. You had a very definite focus. And is that something that LowTek is going to be sticking with? The real sort of old school.
I think so. It's something that's quite important to me. I've got loads of like retro consoles behind me and stuff, and
yeah, I'm noticing it. I'm very jealous. It's we look like we're in such sterile, awful environments, and yours is just chocker with fun things and consoles and a Switch and a Dreamcast and God, yeah, got it. Well, I hope
a fake Nintendo PlayStation. Yeah.
Oh, and even better. My God,
it's so cool.
And so you've kind of found your niche, and you think you're going to be staying in and around there. Is it always going to be NES, or do you think you might branch out into some of the other? Much loved.
Might branch out. So we have already went to the Dreamcast because it was easy to port the game. I don't know where it's gone. Was working on there we go, a Game Boy port of Flea as well.
Sweet.
Tapeworm it's not retro, but got the Playdate stretch goal reached. So when the SDK actually lands on that, we'll get started on porting that over.
Fantastic. So for anyone who's not familiar with it, what's the Playdate?
Playdate's a new handheld console by Panic that has a crank on the side as an input device. And Tapeworm actually came about while thinking of games that would work with a crank. Because I was thinking of, the worm could go down a path and then you wind them back into the tape to bring them back down, and then you can put them down another path.
It's the most delightfully bonkers thing that I've seen in such a long time. A bright yellow handheld console whose input device is a crank handle.
I can't believe I've not heard of this. What?
Yeah, I heard of the Playdate.
No.
So cool.
My mind's been blown.
Are you not reading? It was featured in the Tapeworm Disco Puzzle news piece, Ryan. I'm disappointed.
I thought I covered Tapeworm Disco Puzzle. That fun fact. That was my first article I wrote about Tapeworm Disco Puzzle.
There you go. You see?
Did I write about it and not? And I've just blanked it. Did something traumatic happen while I was writing that article? It's like a suppressed memory. I just can't remember anything about writing it at all, other than the games I mentioned.
Every session that we have recording stuff is opening up entirely new.
It's like
realms
therapy.
Of memory. If a alien abduction comes up at some point, Ryan, I am not taking responsibility. The other area that you've been looking at, Ali, is games for dyslexia. So are you a dyslexic yourself?
Yeah, very dyslexic myself. I find it really hard to read, and my spelling is atrocious. So yeah, you might notice in some of my marketing stuff big spelling mistakes, and I realise like 2 minutes after I've posted them, but then it's too late, isn't it? Some people have liked it. You don't want to lose those likes.
Yeah, don't listen. You are actually putting out marketing stuff, so you're head and shoulders above so many other of your peers and colleagues who stick a game out and think that telling anybody is somehow, just selling out, man. But no, it's. You're doing well. You're doing well. So tell us about the first project that you did with dyslexia in mind.
That was the familiar fairy tale dyslexic text-based adventure. It was made to highlight the issues that dyslexics face while playing games with loads of words in them. because a dyslexic's never going to play a text-based adventure game, are they?
Well, that's the thing. As a huge, I was a writer first when I joined the games industry, and I am told that interactive fiction was kind of one of my main entry points into games. So an interactive fiction for dyslexics was kind of mind-blowing.
And it was a labour of love. I used to do it while I was on the way down to see my girlfriend on the train.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, I'm dyslexic and doing this big wordy thing that because there's no pictures in it. There's a picture at the start. I was going to add pictures, but it kind of defeated the purpose. I was going to do it as an accessibility feature at the end, but yeah, it shows a lot of the things that frustrate me. Like there's so much text. It's really hard to read. It moves about for me in my eyes or whatever. And then the other thing that it highlights is the time aspect of some of the games. Like in the Telltale series of games, it's nice and story based and whatever, but then you get 5 seconds to make a decision on 4 different things.
Yeah,
you have to read.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
Yeah, I tend to find when I'm playing those games, like I end up like the Telltale games specifically, because you've got that timer. Yeah, I think you end up like getting almost worse at reading because the timer's there, and it's like, no, you've got to pick. I can't read anything.
You just read one, and then you're like, that doesn't sound good. I'll just pick one of the other ones random.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes, isn't it?
So it showed that, and some people like in the Steam reviews for that game, for Familiar Fairy Tale, there's someone says, if you remove the timer, I will play this game. This will make it bad. And I was like, that's the point. It's it's to highlight the issue that it's not good, and we would play your games if they were more accessible for us.
It was kind of pioneering because it's one of these issues that has been ignored for so long. Not just dyslexia, but accessibility in general.
Yeah, and it's getting bigger now. Like, say, games like The Last of Us 2 were, I think, absolutely groundbreaking on the amount of accessibility options they had. And I was so happy that the first option that comes up is, do you want text-to-speech turned on? So you need to read one piece of text, and then all the rest of the text will be read for you. Yes, I think it was a really bold move for them to add that as the first thing you see in a game.
Well, I think that's the thing, and it's really kind of set the standard. It shows this is possible, and it's a AAA game, so they had the budget and they had the team. But in terms of just making the game, accessible for the broadest possible audience, it's, as you say, mind blowing. So I'm really interested in finding out how did you get involved with the Playaway Festival? Because the focus of your talk is looking at the accessibility and the dyslexia issue, isn't it? Yeah,
that was through the latest project, the Dyslexic. It was because I'm working with in-game to get the prototype and stuff, the first version of that up and going, and they were talking to Playaway, and they says, it'd be good if like anybody that's doing accessibility or empathy in games would do a talk, so they pointed them my way. So I heard about it a little bit before everybody else did.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Dyslexic and what you're doing with in-game?
Yep. I had the idea after releasing A Familiar Fairy Tale that I'd highlighted the solution, and I highlighted the problem. I need to make a solution for that. Otherwise, I don't know, I'm just a hypocrite or something. So, so any games that I make are going to have Dyslexic in it if they can, if they're not on the retro stuff. Okay. But it's a tool for developers that lets them easily add text-to-speech options to their game at any point of development. You basically just drop the object into your scene, and then it adds the ability to just be able to click anywhere, and it reads it. I can see that making a big difference, and it does some other stuff, like the points where of the timer. It also pauses the game. It puts the screen time to 0 and turns the music off and stuff, and pauses everything, so that you can take the time to read all those options.
That's really cool, because we were speaking about Undertale at the end of last week, and a lot of the stuff in that, like, bosses will give you hints on how to beat them while you're playing. But the problem is, if I'm looking at like my options at the bottom of the screen, and then I look up, I can't read that sort of speech bubble quick enough to go, that's what I've got to do. Okay, well I'll do that. And So it's really cool that if that
Undertale
was
is one of those games that I really want to play that game. I've heard it's really witty, really funny, but it's so text heavy that you can't do it. See, the one that always comes to mind is in Final Fantasy VII. There was a similar thing where the first boss you come to is like a scorpion robot thing. I never got past that, and then I talked to someone else years later, and they says they never got past it, and they realized someone else told them that it was because they were dyslexic and they didn't read the thing. There was a bit at the top of the screen saying, only attack him when his tail is up. I was like, the amount of dyslexics that never got past that. I mean, they wouldn't do well in the game because it's quite text heavy anyway, but
it's funny. I'm actually playing I'm playing the PS1 version on my PS4 right now, and I'm only like a wee bit past that at the moment. I'm only like a few hours in.
How many times did you die at that bit? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Like, I remember thinking, why is there such a massive difficulty spike? This is still the tutorial.
Yeah.
Wow. You've just told me something about the game I'm playing now. I didn't know. Oh well. So back to your talk. You were mentioning how you find it difficult to code. Do you have any advice for people who are dyslexic who do want to get into gaming? Because I was in that situation where I love gaming. Obviously, that's why I work for SGN. And when I was sort of trying to work out what my career path would be, I wanted to work in the industry, but I knew, I can't code and I can't draw to save my life. So I was like, I can't be an artist and I can't work on games. So I was like, I'll speak about them and write about them and stuff. And writing articles, I've got a bit more time and there's more sort of margin for error and there's spell checks and stuff, whereas in coding there's not really that. So what would your advice be to dyslexic people wanting to get into games?
Yeah, like you say, try to find something that doesn't really impact you that much. From if you can get by spelling with a spell check or whatever. I find it really hard in the code because the amount of times where I've just not spelled the variable names the same, and then I'm there for hours being like, why is it not working? It should work. Looking over it and over it and over it, and then someone else comes along and go, those don't match. Luckily, in some of the newer code editors and stuff, you can highlight that bit, and it highlights all the others that have the same name, so it's a bit easier to tell when it's not right now. But yeah, also the visual scripting and stuff is really quite good, and it's much easier now to learn because when I was growing up, it was YouTube and stuff wasn't a thing. It was all kind of text tutorials, if anything. But with YouTube and screen readers, it's much easier to learn that kind of stuff if you want to, or if you just want to be in games and don't really care. Say you can. There's so many other things you can do QA, you can do production management, whatever you want really.
Yeah, yes, I suppose, you don't realise how many options there are, within the games industry when you're sort of on the outside looking in, but there are a plethora of different career paths you can go with, even if you are dyslexic or you do find it difficult to, if you can't draw like me, then you don't need to be like, that's my two options gone, there are plenty of other options. So yeah, thank you very much, Ali, for joining us. Is there anything you want to promote and plug while you're here?
The Play Away Festival, the talk. I'm going to be doing a Let's Play live stream play party thing at it as well. I think I'll be one of the hosts of that. The talk, that I'm doing. Dyslexic coming soon, but not out yet. And I think that's about it.
And links to everywhere that you can find Ali will be in the show notes, so do please follow them and check them out, and follow them on Twitter, and follow LowTek Games and everything, because they're doing some really interesting stuff. Like I said, Tapeworm Disco Puzzle was the first game I covered, and I sent you an email because I was like, right, I've got to just contact everyone and just tell them I'm writing about them so they might give me something. And I sent you an email, and I think it was kind of redundant. I was just like, hey, can you tell me about your game? And you were like, the press release.
I was like, I don't know what you want, but here's a lot.
Ali's a brilliant guy, really nice guy, so definitely go and check him out. And you've been watching the Scottish Games Network podcast, and we'll see you next time.